Hey everybody, it's Jeremy, the coach. So another video. What I'm going to talk about today is food in the body. There are some really obvious things that you probably already know why you have to eat, and there are things you wouldn't know. I'm just going to gloss over some things that you might not know. Anything, if you want more in depth, you can always ask at the website, changeyourlight.com. Studies done over the years, many studies. It's how we know about the human body, and that's how there are doctors. More and more studies coming all the time. Not all research is conclusive, but there is a strong correlation that what you eat affects your health. There was a statement made, I'm not sure when it was made by researchers. The composition, structure, and the function of the brain are dependent upon the availability of appropriate nutrients. I can think of one in particular, omega 3s. If you ever heard of like a Mediterranean diet, something like that, or eating fish, if you ever hear about Eskimos, because they eat mostly fish, and how their health is. Omega 3s, a lot of it comes from fish. It's something, your brain is made of fat. There are some carbs in there and proteins in there, obviously. Omega 3s are the structure of your brain. It's something you need, and in the American diet, we get mostly omega 6, which is also needed by the body, but the proportion of what we get from omega 3 to omega 6 is way out of whack in the American diet. Something that most people don't realize is that our bodies are made of energy and chemicals, and we need energy to move, to do whatever we have to do, go to the gym, to walk to the car. We need energy to do whatever we have to do. Made of energy and chemicals. It breaks down the chemicals, builds them up, breaks down from whatever we eat. If you hear like somebody who goes to the gym, they take a lot of protein. Your body breaks that down and makes into whatever proteins it needs to build the muscles. That's it. We need it to grow when we're children. We need different energy needs when we're old versus when we're young versus when we're middle-aged. That's what food is. It's the gasoline for our body. How like an engine uses gas, that's what our body does. This is what metabolism is. Metabolism is how the body uses various chemicals and their reactions to grow, to change, to adapt. If you ever heard you are what you eat, I really don't like that cliche stuff, but if you feed your body right, your body will be right. If you feed it the proper chemicals, the proper thing, the proper nutrients, depending on where you are. Someone on pretty average size versus someone who is a football player might be two different things. A football player would not probably need a lot more than what I need. And we have different needs based on age, on how much exercise we do, stress, what we goes through our minds. That is something I can help you with. Something I actually excel in if you ever need any help. I'm going to go to something else that I had learned while I was in school. I'm going to lead towards something else, towards vitamins. When I've experienced this, not getting enough of specific nutrients can affect everything you do. It can affect you physically, mentally. One of those things is caffeine. If you ever get a caffeine, or if you get the withdrawal, it affects our body. Caffeine is one of my weaknesses. I just went through it a week or two ago. Total caffeine withdrawal. But what we put in our body affects our health in every single way. One of the things that I learned while I was in school was the roots of the word vitamin. I think it had come from Latin, but don't quote me on that. But vital and amine. Amine is not something you hear every day, but it's a scientist thing. Um, Vital, necessary for life. And amine, when it initially came into our language, meant with minerals. Amine, it's AMINE. Um, the biggest one when researchers, however many hundreds of years ago this was, started researching vitamins, the biggest one they noticed was with nitrogen. Amine, AMINE, referred specifically, I don't know about specifically, but more often than not, referred to containing nitrogen. The initial vitamins that were discovered all contain nitrogen. We now know that not everyone does contain nitrogen. Um, Vitamin, nutrients necessary for life. That's where we got the word from. Um, let's see. I had mentioned I just glossed over mental health and diet. I've been in ups and downs, especially with caffeine. I love caffeine. We're sure we don't know everything. There's so much more we can learn. But what vitamins do to the body, or I should say nutrients, that's how I should put it. Various nutrients do to the body. Some are good and some are bad. Not getting enough of certain things will destroy us. Alcohol has calories in it, believe it or not. And if you look at a beer, they're roughly 100 calories. Some are like 90, some are up to like 120, 125. What we eat, what we put in our body affects our mental health. One thing that is huge, especially since I just mentioned alcohol, is B12. That is plays a huge part in your body. Lack of it, especially if you're a drinker, alcohol leaches out certain vitamins, B12 being one of them. Lack of energy, fatigue, poor mindset, mania, psychosis, poor memory. One thing that I learned that I found very interesting while I was in school was that first semester I went back, we went through the vitamins. B9, vitamin B9. It could be called folic acid, it could be called folate. I think there was another word for it also. Another term for it. Not having enough of that can have negative effects. The biggest issue is pregnant women, because folate is involved with cell division. Cell division is like when you're growing, things like that. It's involved with building muscle. But if it's making cells, that's what pregnancy is. It starts as, we know how it starts, and then divides into however many cells a baby has. Trillions of cells. Starts with one cell. Starts with two cells, a male and a female. And splits and divides and divides and divides. If you ever look, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. How pregnancy, from day 1 to day 270, it's roughly 270 days, 9 months. And see how cells are started. Vitamins are absolutely necessary at all stages, most importantly for growing children and pregnant women. It's involved in so many chemical reactions and are necessary. Something I do suggest with everybody is seeing a doctor and taking vitamins every day. The reason I say go to a doctor first, not every doctor knows about nutrition, but they can tell you specifically where you're at. I won't see that. If we ever do some coaching, we're going to be doing it by video, and I won't be able to see blood test results, nothing like that. Your doctor can give you a specific thing. And that's something that, it happened with me. When I lost all my weight, I was B12 deficient. There was a point where I was deficient in vitamin D. And my doctor told me, to this day, he told me 12 years ago that to take a certain vitamin called Super B. And I take it twice a day, every day. Vitamins, they're considered essential because our bodies don't produce them on their own. We have to take them in. They play hundreds and hundreds of different parts in the body. More than I know, more than I can count, more than I can think of. Hundreds and hundreds of things in the body they do. Convert food into energy, repair damage on cellular level, heal wounds. And I'm thinking of even now with the cellular level, when you see commercials for shampoo talking about keratin, and which is involved with skin. Your hair is considered part of your skin. But your body needs different things. They're good for the immune system, for digestion. You heard of fat, carbs, and protein are energy sources. Taking in the right food I can compare it to taking in the right kind of oxygen. Because if you ever heard of carbon monoxide, that will kill you. Same thing with oxygen. You can't take in carbon monoxide. You can't take in, what we breathe in is O2. There's two oxygens bound together. So it's the same thing. We have to breathe the right form of oxygen, drink the proper form of water, and it's the same thing with our food. Something I learned also that I know is true is the idea of 100% dietary intake. This can be deceiving. Not that it can be, it is very deceiving. When you take in 100% dietary intake for the day, it does not mean you've gotten 100% of what you need. By no means does it mean that. That assumes you're already perfect, your metabolism is perfect, you already have what you need. It doesn't take into account where you're at in life. An elderly person, would have completely different needs than a child who was growing rapidly. And that child would have different needs than a football player, a basketball player, versus someone who's lazy. Every one of us is different. That just means you've gotten what's suggested. That does not take into account that you might be deficient. If I have stored up 50% vitamin D and I take 100% every day, I'm just getting 100% of what I need for that day. That does not add to what my body needs. I said in a previous video that there are 4 fat-soluble vitamins. You have to be careful with those because those, as I said before, those stay in your body. The water-soluble ones get flushed out. But 100% does not mean that you're good for the day. You might need more. Maybe you have an illness, you have cancer, you have a heart problem, you have whatever it is, that your body does not use that whatever it is properly. If you're deficient and you take in 100%, that's only what you need for that day. Doesn't take into account how your body breaks it down and builds it up. If you're deficient and you take in 100% of something, you will remain deficient. So I say go to a doctor. Get tested, especially for those water-soluble the fat-soluble vitamins. See where you're at. Maybe you need more. I just went over the fat-soluble and water-soluble. Fat-soluble are better when taken with fat. I don't know if they have to be, but they are absorbed by the body when taken with fat. They are also stored in the body, which means that, like fat, if they are fat-soluble, having too much is also a bad thing. There are four fat soluble vitamins, four known ones, and I remember DAKE: vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin K, and vitamin E. What each of those does is will be another video. And there is an exception with the B vitamins. All the B vitamins are water soluble except one, vitamin B12. Something it needs so much of it. You could see it in micrograms, milligrams, whatever. Your body needs a lot of these vitamins. Like I said, go to your doctor. Talk to your doctor to see where you're at. And I specifically mentioned, different situations of what your body might need. I specifically mentioned a heart problem because I have a heart problem. Now, my body might be different than your body. I have to take certain vitamins, one of them being magnesium. Magnesium is good for muscle contraction. Your heart is a muscle. And that ties into, I need more than 100% of that magnesium every day. It could be cancer, where your body will have a problem with too much vitamin E, one of those fat-soluble vitamins. It could be you drink too much water. Body flushing things out, you don't have enough of electrolytes and things like that, or kidney problems and you drink too much water, or sodium. Vitamins, they're important. We need, aside from the fat, carbs, and protein that we all hear about every day and we're bombarded with commercials about going on a diet, that